tech CEOs are suddenly interested in something totally new.
Imagine a new type of computer that can simulate nature directly.
Well, sort of new. Lately, all that's been in the headlines are AI, AI, and AI. But a new superpower has recently reemerged, and it's called
quantum computing.
Quantum computing.
Quantum computing.
For maybe after the Industrial Revolution, this is the biggest thing.
Back in 2018, it was everywhere. IBM launched the world's first commercial quantum computer and put it in a glass box at CES.
IBM unveiling its new Nighthawk quantum processor, one of the fastest computers in the world.
Google was also racing towards something called quantum supremacy, and private funding in quantum companies went from $140 million to over $450 million within a single year. But once AI arrived, the quantum hype died down.
And in the next few years, most of the commercial interest will just collapse.
Even Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, publicly said that useful quantum computers were still 15 to 30 years away back in 2025. But then something changed. The same Jensen Huang, 2 years later, had something completely different to say. And he wasn't alone. So what happened between 2025 and today? Well, I dug into why quantum is becoming more and more needed in the AI industry, and even spoke to an expert in the field. And the information that I found shocked me. So let's get into why quantum computing is going to revolutionize the entire tech industry and AI as we know it today. So before we get into why every tech CEO is repositioning themselves into quantum, we need to spend some time making sure you actually understand what quantum computing is and why it's relevant. Because most explanations get this wrong. And who better to explain it than David, a quantum data scientist at Global Data Quantum. I sat down with him to get a grasp of the basics. Okay, so what is quantum computing in the simplest terms possible?
Okay, so I think that it's always good to talk about quantum computing, starting first by classical computing. So in a classical computer, like your laptop or your phone, all the information is processed by using bits. In the quantum computing, instead of talking about bits, we talk about quantum bits or qubits. And these quantum bits, they are going to follow the rules of quantum physics. In particular, we are going to focus into two rules, which are superposition and entanglement. So thanks to the superposition principle, a quantum bit can be at the same time into the superposition of two states, 0 and 1, which basically makes possible to represent more information than a classical bit. And as a consequence of this, you increase the number of qubits, then the number of information that you can represent grows exponentially. So in this way, the quantum computers can work with much richer computational basis.
Okay, so you probably remember quantum computing dominating headlines back in 2018. We saw it here and here and here. That's because in January 2018, IBM unveiled the IBM Q System 1 at CES, the world's first quantum computer designed for commercial use. It was housed in a 9-foot glass cube like no one had ever seen before. So Google followed in March with Bristlecone, a 72-qubit processor, and their most serious quantum hardware yet. And soon, companies were projecting that it could be used for all kinds of things, kind of like when blockchain blew up or virtual reality. Quantum was sold as a universal superbrain, or a computer that could crack any problem instantly, design miracle drugs, or even break any code. And because of that, companies like IBM and Google and a wave of startups all leaned in. But the reality was different. Those machines had a few dozen qubits, and qubits are extraordinarily fragile. If there's the slightest vibration change, a tiny temperature change, or a stray bit of electromagnetic noise, then they'd decohere. Basically, they'd collapse into garbage. The error rates were so high for most real problems that the answer that quantum computing gave was never actually reliable. Because most of the problems that were tested were simulated or the variables were very controlled. But in the real world, it just didn't work the same way. So there were benchmarks that were designed to show that it worked in principle, but no actual business problems are being solved. So eventually the patience ran dry, and then in 2022, something else arrived, ChatGPT. And AI just completely took over overnight, and everybody forgot about quantum, which is why what happened next makes things really strange. For about 2 years, quantum was just background noise. And then in December 2024, Google was back on stage. They called it Willow, and they claimed that they had solved the one thing that the field had been stuck on for years: error correction. So remember the fragile qubits that collapse into noise? Google said that they crossed a threshold where adding more qubits actually made the system more stable, not less. And to show it off, they ran a benchmark that they said would take a classical supercomputer 10 septillion years to complete. Okay, so what was the significance of Google Willow Chip's result, and why did that specific announcement matter so much to people inside of the field?
Okay, so here I think that what matters is it wasn't the chip itself, but its meaning in the field, as you said. Yeah, because right now, with respect to the quantum computers, especially with the technology that many companies use, these superconducting qubits that, for example, IBM, Google, or IQN in Europe, they use this type of technology in order to have the hardware. They have an issue that is basically during the calculations, there is noise. And if you put more qubits and you put more connections into the chip, then the errors accumulate. So you need a way in order to deal with these errors. There is several mitigation techniques in order to mitigate the errors or even error correction techniques. So right now we are in this noise intermediate scaling quantum computing era, which is called the NISQ era. But in the future, and in the future I mean in the following years, what we are going to see is that we will have fault-tolerant quantum computers. So I would say that the announcement of this chip of Google was relevant because of that, because it was a milestone, a step towards that path.
So within weeks, quantum stocks went vertical. IonQ, Rigetti, D-Wave, they doubled, tripled, and some went even higher. After 2 really quiet years, quantum was again the hottest thing to trade on the market. And then one man ended the party in a single sentence, and the result was catastrophic. IonQ dropped 39% in a single day. Rigetti fell 45%. The entire sector got wiped out. But here's where things change. Just 2 months later, in March 2025, Huang does something almost unheard of. At NVIDIA's own conference, he hosts an entire day called Quantum Day. And basically, he walks everything that he said before back. This is only 2 months later. He opens it by joking,
"This is the first event in history where a company CEO invites all of the guests to explain why he was wrong."
And by June 2025, he'd actually gone in the complete opposite direction, and he called quantum an inflection point.
There's an inflection point happening in quantum computing. The number of logical qubits are starting to grow. Well, just like Moore's Law would, I could totally expect 10 times more logical qubits every 5 years, 100 times more logical qubits every 10 years. Those logical qubits would become better error corrected, more robust, higher performance, more resilient, and of course, will continue to be scalable.
So that's the real question. What did Jensen Huang see in those 18 months that flipped them so completely? It wasn't a quantum breakthrough. It was actually a problem, and it was an AI problem. So what revived quantum wasn't quantum itself, but it's something that AI ran out of. Electricity. I posted videos about how the entire AI economy runs on these AI data centers, and these data centers need a ton of power. A single AI chip can pull as much power as a house, and a big training run can pull as much power as an entire city. The IEA expects data center demand to roughly double by 2030, and Gartner projects power shortages could restrict 40% of AI data centers by 2027. So the bottleneck for AI isn't ideas anymore, it's the power grid. And that's actually where quantum comes back in. So for certain problems, a quantum computer does in the fraction of an energy what a supercomputer needs a power plant for. Quantum reported beating a classical supercomputer using 30,000 times less energy. So that's the key. In 2018, Quantum's pitch was, we're a lot faster. And nobody really needed faster. Now it's we use radically less power. And with AI about to hit an energy ceiling, that's the most valuable sentence in tech right now. So remember what I told you to hold on to? Quantum was a solution looking for a problem, and AI just became the problem. And here's what's surprising. It goes both ways. So those fragile qubits that killed quantum in 2018, they're now actually being fixed by AI itself. The machine learning is actually correcting errors in real time. So AI needs quantum for energy, and quantum needed AI to work. They're holding each other up. They're not competing against each other. And so that's where the money ended up following. So through May 2026, the quantum stock index was up about 69%. The S&P was up about 11%. IonQ revenue hit $65 million in Q1, up 755% year over year. It's small, but it's the direction that investors are buying. And the frenzy isn't really the point. It's about who started writing the checks. So in May of 2026, 2026, the US government put over $2 billion into 9 quantum computing companies. IBM was the anchor at $1 billion, and it didn't just hand out grants, it actually took out equity stakes in this. And when a government buys ownership of an industry, it's not a science experiment. It's investing in infrastructure for the future. Then, in June, IBM committed $10 billion to build the first fault-tolerant quantum computer by 2029. And Jensen Huang, the man who originally crashed the sector, well, NVIDIA didn't actually start building quantum computers. They started building the connective tissue. So, a system called NVQ Link that plugs quantum processors into their AI chips, and an AI platform literally named Icing, built to run quantum machines. Huang's exact words were, AI is essential to making quantum computing practical. AI becomes the control plane, the operating system of quantum machines. So that's the whole thesis from the source himself. So this was never quantum versus AI, or AI versus quantum. It's the two fusing into one system. And NVIDIA is running the same playbook that made them the most valuable company on earth in the first place. They didn't win AI by building the best model. They won by selling the shovels. And now they're selling the shovels for quantum too. So I hope you guys liked this video. It was really fun to film and research. If you're interested in more tech documentaries, comment documentary down below with the type of documentary you want to see. And I'll see you in the next one.